Hi, I'm Lauren from Kitchen Things, and this is a guide to your new ASKO Craft oven. Firstly, your left knob here is the one that you're going to choose your various cooking functions, programs, and extra functions that your oven has. Turning one step to the left is where we're going to access our cooking functions. You can see at the top here we've got oven. The default function that you're going to start with is hot air cooking. If you want to change the function, we're going to use the right knob to change the function to the function that you want, and we'll talk about the functions later. We're going to then need to change the temperature. Now, to get to the tab for temperature, we can either use the arrow button here, or we can press the center of the right button, and that will take us one step right to the temperature. And now when we turn the right hand knob, this is going to change the temperature of the oven. At this point, we can start cooking. We don't have to add anything else if we don't want to. We're just going to press that flashing tick icon and the oven will start cooking. If we want to stop the oven cooking, we go to the other end of the screen and press the X button to stop. And it will ask us, do we want to stop? And we say yes by pressing the tick. It's as simple as that. But there's a lot more to your oven that's under the hood. So let's look at what else is on the screen here. So there are our oven functions. The next step to the left is a fast preheat. This is where the oven turns on all its elements to quickly come up to the temperature that you desire, and then you would change to the function that you want. The next step is our programs. There are a lot of programs under the hood. These are presets where the oven manufacturers determine the time and the temperature to cook certain types of foods. These are all adaptable for weight and doneness, but we'll get to those later. Defrost. This is just a circulating air that's going to speed up your defrosting slightly, and just a much more safe environment for defrosting than leaving it out on the bench. So that's all the steps on the left-hand side. Now if we turn to the right, the first is the Eco function. Now Eco is not going to save you money or power. What it does is it spreads out the power usage over a longer period. It's really designed for places where there's a limited power supply, and it's of less use to most of us. So I would ignore that if you live in a normal powered environment. Plate warming. This is a temperature adjustable setting so that you can warm your plates to the temperature that you desire for the time that you desire. And keep warm, similarly, this is a function where you can keep your food warm. It is temperature adjustable. And the final icon on the right is your cleaning function. Now this oven is a pyrolytic self-cleaning oven, and I will talk about pyrolytic self-cleaning and how you operate that shortly. So we've already worked out how to use the oven, but what if we want to add timers? So first thing we need to do is choose our cooking function. I'm going to choose top and bottom heat, which is a standard bake function. And then the next thing I need to do is to go to the next tab to choose my temperature, which I'm going to choose. Now I want to put in a duration, a cooking duration. So I am going to use the arrow to go to the right, or I could have pressed the center knob here to move to the right. This is a cooking duration tab, and I can turn the right knob now and choose the length of time that I want the oven to cook. So I want the oven to cook using a top and bottom element heat at 180 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes. I press the start button, it will cook for 20 minutes, and it will automatically switch the oven off when it gets to that. If you look at the icons along the bottom of the screen, we also have a little clock icon. If I press the clock icon, this brings up 3 egg timers. Now these timers are different from the duration timer. The duration timer controls the oven. It is going to stop the oven after the duration that you have put in. The egg timer is going to just give you a warning. So if you've put something into the oven but you want to check it after 10 minutes, press the clock icon, and then you can choose up to 3 different egg timers. So that means that you can remind yourself to put different foods into the oven at different times, or check on different foods at different times. Now, we've talked about several of the icons along the bottom of the screen. This icon here, the plus button, is the most powerful button in the oven, and it's going to give you access to so many more features and functions. What is displayed when I press the plus button depends on what I'm doing at the time. So not all of the buttons are going to be displayed every time you press it, only the ones that are applicable to what you're doing. I am choosing to cook using hot air at 180, and I'm going to put in a cooking time of 30 minutes for what I'm cooking at the moment. Now, before I press the tick button, I'm going to press the plus button. And you can see I've got a whole new menu to access along here. Now we're going to run through what each of these things covers. The first tab in the plus menu is the information button. Information button is going to tell you about the cooking function that you have chosen. So if it's already highlighted for me automatically. If I press the tick icon here, you can see what comes up on the screen. It's telling me all about the hot air function, because this is what I have chosen to cook with at the moment. So it's telling me the accessories that are best used, the shelf level that's best used for this cooking function, that preheating is recommended for this function, and it explains to me all about how the oven is providing the heat. So it says the dish is heated by the hot air supplied from the rear of the, and then we need to see what else it says. So we turn the knob and it says oven. This function makes use of even heating and is ideal for baking. So if you don't know what the best function is for certain foods, make friends with the information button, because that's going to help you learn more about your oven. Now, to exit this part of the menu, we press the X button. And that takes us back to our main screen. Let's go back to the plus menu. We're going to navigate to the right. This is the preheat icon. Now, because it's got an X through it, we know that the oven has not got an automatic preheat built into the program. If we want to add an automatic preheat, we press the tick button. And now you can see at the top of the screen on the right here that the little C plus icon is active. That means now, instead of cooking for 30 minutes, including the heat up time, this is going to preheat the oven automatically first and then cook for your 30 minutes and then switch off. The third icon is the delayed start. This is where we want to put our food in the oven, but we don't want the oven to start cooking now. We want whatever we're cooking to be ready later. So we've already set the oven up for 30 minutes at 180 using hot air cooking. So we're going to enter the delayed start icon. You can see that it's grey around there, so that's the active icon. Press the tick button, and the earliest time that this would be ready is 30 minutes from now, which is 5:55. But I don't want my food ready at 5:55. I want it ready at 6:30. So I dial in 6:30, press the start button, and you can see the little icon on the screen has got the delayed start. Press the tick and you can see that the oven actually hasn't started. It's going to go into a standby mode. It will turn on at 6 o'clock, it will cook for 30 minutes, and it will switch itself off automatically at 6:30. The fourth icon is actually a next page icon. So if we go and hit that icon, it actually automatically takes us to the next screen. This is the add to favorites icon. This is where, if you've set up a cooking program, a function, time and temperature that you really like for a certain food, you can then add this to the favorites menu, so it comes up as a preset in your oven. In order to do this, we press the tick icon, and then you can see we've already got one set up here. That's for pork. We're going to turn the knob to number 2 to the first free icon. We're going to press the tick button, and then we can just navigate along the alphabet to the letters that we want to input them. So this is for a lasagna, so we're going to go L and then A, S, A, G, M, E. Once we've input all the letters, we press the tick button again. Then we can start cooking, but it will also be saved into our presets. The last icon in the plus menu at this point is the staged cooking icon. Now, staged cooking is where you can preset different times, functions, and temperatures that will automatically move in a sequence through the cook. A good example of this is a pork belly. You want to use several different functions and temperatures for cooking that pork belly. The first one might be a very high top heat to start rendering that crackle process. Then you would want a long, slow cook to tenderize and cook the meat. And then right at the end, you might want to add the grill to the pork just to pop up that crackle. Now, in some ovens, you will have to come back to the oven to set that up. But with your ASKO Craft oven, you can set all this up in advance. And of course, then you can save that to your favorites so you don't have to set it up again. So let's go and set up a pork belly. The easiest way to start up a stage cook is to set your first stage before you enter the plus menu. So we're going to turn one step to the left. We're going to choose our first cooking function. And for my pork belly, this would be fan assisted grill. Then we're going to navigate to the temperature, and we're going to choose the temperature that we want. I want quite a high temperature to start with because we really want to start that fat rendering process. So I'm going to choose 230 degrees, and I need to choose a cooking time. Now, we only want this for the beginning of the cook, so I'm going to choose 15 minutes. I'm not going to press the start menu because we don't want to start cooking yet. We're going to press the plus menu icon, and then we're going to navigate until we hit the staged cooking icon. Hit the tick button. You can see our first stage is there. Now we want to add a stage. So we're going to use the arrow or the central part of the button to navigate to the second stage, and we're going to press the tick to enter that menu. Our second function is going to be a long, slow cook. So I am going to use top and bottom heat, and I'm going to reduce the temperature of the oven down to 140 degrees, and I want to cook this for 2 hours. Now you can see at the top of the screen here, we've got 2 stages. I'm going to press the tick to enter the second stage to commit. And now we're going to add our third stage. You could just start cooking now. You don't have to add 3 stages, but we want to add a third stage, which is just a little bit of grill at the end to pop that crackle. So again, I navigate across to the third bar and then press the tick button, and we're going to choose the grill. High temperature, just for a couple of minutes. Now you can see we've got 3 stages across the top. Hit the tick button. These are our 3 stages. So now what we need to do is we need to remove ourselves from the staged cooking menu, and we do that by pressing the X. That's the opposite of what you might think you might do, but we need to remove ourselves from the staged cooking menu in order to start the cook. So we press the X, and now you can see we're in the staged cooking menu. We've still got those stages saved up here. we need to remove ourselves from the plus menu by pressing the X. And now we're ready to start. You can see that we're going to start with the fan grill, which was our first stage at 2:30 for 15 minutes. All I need to do now is press the tick icon. If I want to save this, press the plus icon again. Move across. We could delay the start and say, I actually want my pork belly to be ready later. Don't want to do that today, but I do want to save this to our favourites. So I navigate across to the little heart plus, press the tick, and this is pork belly. So we are going to go in and press the tick to enter number 3 and choose pork belly. The space is right at the end. Now, not only is it saved, but we can cook it and then we can cook it again tomorrow, or someone else in your family can come back and cook that pork belly recipe and program without having to do all of that inputting. Earlier, we talked about preheat. There were various ways that you can preheat your oven. You can choose the preheat function here, which will preheat the oven to the temperature that you choose, and then you would then go in and choose a function that you want to cook at. That's one option. The other option is to add the preheat via the plus menu, which will automatically include it before your oven function. And if you put in a cooking time, then it won't actually start counting down that time until your oven has come up to temperature, and that's an automatic process. You can actually set your preheat to be global so that it will automatically add a preheat to all your cooking, and this is how you do that. So we have the oven awake but in standby mode, and we're going to press the plus icon. Now you can see what's displayed in the plus icon when the oven isn't actually set to cook is completely different to what it was when it's cooking. In here, we've got a few different settings. So if we click here, this is your general settings. If we go in and click on this, you can see this is where you're going to go in to set the language. If your oven is set to the wrong language, where you're going to set the time of the day. You can set a date in your oven if you wish, and you can make some changes to things like the sound inside the general settings. But what we want to do is go across to the cooking icon here, and we're going to press the tick to enter the cooking settings. The first setting is the default program intensity. Now when we go into our cooking programs and presets to look at them, you'll be able to see that there are various intensities of cooking that you can set, but you can globally increase or decrease those. So if you want your food generally to be more well done than the oven is offering you in a preset, you can alter the global doneness of all those programs here. But we want to go to the preheat and set a global preheat. So we're going to go to this icon here, press the arrow or the central button, and this is where you can see at the moment by default it is off. It's got a red line through it. We want it to be on. Press the tick, and now we have to exit the plus menu by pressing the X until we get back to the screen. Now when I turn the oven on and choose a cooking function, automatically the preheat is already included in any cooking function, time and temperature that I set up. The third step to the left are our cooking programs. Favourites are presets that you have set up by going to the plus menu and choosing the heart icon. You can also add a program, a cooking program that you have set up at the end of every cook. So when your cooking is finished, this is the end screen. The first icon is, my food's great, I want to take it out of the oven. The second icon is, my food isn't quite ready. It needs a little bit extra time. Press the tick button and say, I want to add an extra 5 minutes cooking. Press the tick and it will automatically stop after that 5 minutes. The third icon is the add gratin. So this is where you want to add extra browning to the top of your food. You can press this icon, it will automatically add the grill. And you can add it for as long as you want, and it will automatically switch off at the end. The last icon is the favorites. You really love what's come out of the oven, press the tick and it will automatically go to our favorites menu, and we can add to our favorites menu as we did before. There are multiple ways that your ASKO Craft oven makes it easier for you to cook. If we navigate to the third icon on the left, this is our programs. Starts with our favorites, those are our own personal presets, and then there is a great selection of other presets where the manufacturer has determined this is the right time and temperature for an individual food. Here I am going to the bread programs. I'll press the tick icon to move into here, and you can see we've got bread, we've got buckwheat bread, we've got whole wheat bread, rye bread, spout bread, bread rolls, pizza. I want to cook some bread rolls today, so I'm going to choose bread rolls. I'm going to press the tick icon. There's my lovely picture of some bread rolls. Now, I can't choose a time or a temperature because the oven is going to make those decisions for me. But what I can choose is how well done I want or how brown I want my rolls to be. I like them to be quite crispy, so I'm going to go for max. And then the oven is decided. It's going to cook my rolls for 25 minutes at the temperature that it decides is the right temperature. And it will start with a preheat and it will carry on and cook those rolls for you. If I was choosing to cook some meat, I have a few more options to put in. So I'm going to the meat section. I'm going to choose poultry, and I've got a whole chicken. So I want my whole chicken to be roasted. Press tick. First thing I have to choose is the weight of my chicken, because obviously a bigger chicken is going to take longer to cook. So the oven needs to know the size of my chicken. My chicken's 1.6 kilos. I want it nice and brown. So actually what you can see up here is there are 3 stages in this program. So this is automatically added in all those stages. It's going to run through them, cook automatically, and it's going to take 1:19 to do that job. You don't have to make any of those decisions. You don't have to put in those stages. You don't have to come back to the oven. It's all automatic. The other way that the oven makes it easier for you to cook is that you can use the included meat thermometer. If you want to cook some meat to the perfect doneness, you need to attach this to the oven. And you can see right here is where the probe goes in. So you unscrew the cap here, and then we're going to insert the probe into the oven. The oven will automatically detect that the probe is on. It is in the oven. So when I choose a cooking function, let's say I'm going to cook a roast of beef. I've chosen a cooking function. I'm going to choose a temperature. I want to slow roast my beef. Instead of a cooking time, I have a core temperature. So I want my beef to be nice and rare. So I'm going to choose 54 degrees. I would insert that probe into the center of the meat. If there's a bone in there, you want to pull it away from the bone slightly, so because the bone will alter the temperature of the probe, and then press the tick button, cook. The oven will detect the core temperature of the meat, and when it gets to the core temperature that you have selected, the oven will automatically switch off. If your oven has a pyrolytic cleaning function, this is really the Rolls Royce of cleaning functions. What happens when you pyrolytically clean your oven is that the oven will heat up inside to almost 500 degrees, and it will carbonize the dirt and turn it to dust. It really is the best way of cleaning an oven, and it's completely hands-off. So we're going to choose the pyrolytic cleaning function, but before we run the function, we have to remove all of the hardware from inside the oven. So that means all of the racks and trays and the side racks, which you will unscrew. Then the next thing we need to do is clean the glass. Now this is a manual clean, just some spray and wipe or some detergent and water. We really just want to remove any oil splatter that's on the glass before we run the clean, because what can happen during a pyrolytic clean is that it can burn into the glass. It's not going to burn into the enamel, so you don't have to worry about the enamel. Just need to clean the glass before you start. Just makes it easier for you to keep your glass clean in the future. Once your oven cavity is empty, you choose your pyrolytic cleaning function. Then you've got 3 options as to the level of cleaning. That really just depends on how dirty your oven is. And you'll notice on the right hand side when I change it, what changes is the time. The cleaning is determined by the length of time that the oven is running. So if your oven is really dirty, go for a high clean. This is going to take 4 hours. With your ASKO oven, that 4 hours includes the heat up, the pyrolytic cleaning function, and the cool down. The oven will stay locked for the entire process until the oven reaches below 100 degrees. Then it will unlock, you can open the door, and any dirt that was inside the oven will have turned to dust and you can just brush it out. Your ASKO oven comes with a lot of different cooking functions, and sometimes it's hard to know which function is good for which food. So I'm just going to give you a brief rundown on what I would use these cooking functions for. First function that you come to is hot air. Now, hot air cooking is what's known as fan-forced cooking. The way that it works is the air is drawn into the back of the oven, it's heated by an element that's behind the back wall of the oven, and then that hot air is recirculated through the oven. That means that it doesn't matter where you put the food in the oven, it's going to be receiving the same heat. That means you can cook on multiple layers at the same time without the need for swapping your trays over. This makes it perfect for baking. The one issue that people have with hot air cooking is that it's more efficient than a standard element cooking. And for baking, time is an essential part of the recipe. So we don't want our cake to cook on the surface too quickly before the time has occurred for the chemistry to take place underneath, or otherwise we're going to end up with cracks and peaks in our cake baking. So what we do need to take into account when we're using fan-forced or hot air cooking and when we're baking is to reduce the temperature in the recipe by 20 degrees. A lot of recipes these days will have 2 temperatures in the recipe, so you should take the second temperature, which is the fan-forced temperature, which is usually 20 degrees below the default. The next function is the same, hot air, but we're adding the bottom element to it. This makes it really good for cooking frozen foods where you need that extra boost into the bottom. If you're doing oven fries, roast potatoes, chicken pieces, things like that, great function. It's also an excellent function for cooking a pie where you need that bottom element, or a pizza, or even a quiche. Next function along, top and bottom heat. That's what we would call bake. Top and bottom element, very conventional cooking, no fan operating inside the oven. You can cook anything with this function, but generally on a single layer, because if you've got 2 layers of food cooking in here, your top layer is going to get browned on the top and your bottom layer is going to get browned on the bottom, so you would need to swap your trays over halfway through the cook. Grill, pretty straightforward. That's just the grill. It's a temperature adjustable grill, so if you want less browning, you're going to dial the temperature down. If you want more browning, dial the temperature up. You do need to have the door shut with all cooking functions with this oven, including the grill. The small grill, you can see the difference. The grill icon is all across the top of the icon, and this one is just the central part of the grill. This is really just an economy version of the grill. If you're just making 1 piece of cheese on toast or a couple of rashers of bacon, this is the function that you're going to choose. Obviously though, you're going to need to put your food directly into the middle of the oven. large grill with fan. This is what we would call fan grill or fan assisted grill. We're using the grill and the fan is circulating the heat that is provided by the grill, pushing that heat further down in the oven. As it's doing this, it's removing some of the energy that's hitting the food here and moving it down into lower down in the oven. It means that food has longer to cook before it browns, making an excellent function for cooking small cuts of meat, things like sausages and chops and lamb rack, chicken breast, butterflied lamb, butterflied chicken. You get great results. If you put your tray in to preheat with the oven, that will provide extra browning to the bottom of your food and you won't even have to turn your food. Another food stuff that you could use for this function is a fruit crumble, particularly one where your fruit is already cooked. You don't want too much extra cooking of the fruit layer, but you want plenty of crispness across the top, so this is a great fruit crumble function as well. Top heat only. This is a very gentle top heat. So when we just want to touch the top of our food with browning, but we don't want it to be too browned. The complete opposite of this is bottom heat only. Really used for when we want to finish something off on the bottom that perhaps isn't quite done and we don't want any more browning on the top. So say you've cooked a quiche, it's quite brown on the top, but the pastry's still a bit soggy. Use bottom heat only and it's going to help finish off that bottom pastry, but not add any more cooking to the top. It's also an excellent function if you're using a bain-marie. If you're cooking food in a water bath, then this is just going to gently heat the oven without damaging the delicate food that you're cooking in your water bath. Bottom and fan. So we're using the bottom element, but we're pushing the air up. This makes it really good for a quiche because with a quiche, you don't want too much browning in your custard layer, but you do need that boost into the bottom for your pastry. That's pretty much all that I would use this function for. And then the last function here is pro-roasting. Now what pro-roasting is it's really ideal for a long, slow roast, but it's going to automatically sear your food first. So what happens is automatically the oven will heat up very hot, regardless of the temperature that you put in here, for the first about 20 minutes of the cook, and then it will drop down to the temperature that you've chosen. Now this makes it not great for foods that have a short cooking time. So if you're just roasting a butterflied chicken, which is only going to take maybe 30 minutes, this is probably not the ideal function because it's going to overcook before it drops down to temperature. But it's great for roasts like legs of lamb or big roasts of beef where you can't sear it on the cooktop anyway, but you want that lovely sear. Use your pro-roasting function, choose a long, slow cooking time, low temperature, but the oven will automatically go up very hot and sear the food for the first few minutes. For more tips and recipes, try our blog www.kitchenthings.co.nz/blog.